Scott?
Hey, Dimitri, how we doing? You hear me good?
Uh, yeah, I can hear you well. So is this, are you going to be recording the video?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't think we did that last time. I have to get my camera set up.
Oh, okay. Does that take a while or?
It shouldn't take much.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Uh,
fine. Let's try to see if we can get video. I think the videos come off a lot stronger. We get a lot more viewership.
yeah, okay. Give me, I
Take your
wasn't
time though.
expecting that.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay,
Take your time, Dimitri. I'm not in a rush.
yeah, give me a couple of minutes. I have to
Okay.
get my, have to get it hooked up. One second.
Cool. All right. All right, Dimitri, I got you muted.
Okay, I got, I got it unmuted.
All right. Here we go, man. That's
All
very
right. Uh, so can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you great.
And you can see me well also.
Yep, you look great, man.
I got these lights, and there is a reflection on the back. How does should I move the lights a little bit, maybe?
Let me check here.
You see behind me in the frames.
Oh, yeah, there's a little bit of light back there, but it's not anything um, too wild, but probably be best to
Let me see.
see what you can do about that.
It's still. Uh, let me see. What will be the best spot to put them? Okay, I think maybe this will do it. Let me do the second. Is this little better?
Yeah, there we
Actually,
go.
you know what? Maybe if I rotate the camera a little bit.
Yeah, there we go.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
like I said, I wasn't expecting a video, so I didn't really prepare. But
Totally fine, man. I think we're gonna be good with it.
you know, let me get this cable inside of my shirt. 1 second.
All right.
Okay, I think that's better.
All right. Cool. So we got the recording go ahead and going now, just so we don't miss anything that we come into. But I have the list of pro tips for us here with about self-directed IRAs, the passive versus active investing, and pieces that come into that. I think a lot of my audience are buying single-family homes and apartment complexes and pushing money into syndication deals. And so I think in that space is most sexy to people is usually around like how can you do that with doing checkbook control and do it like in a cost efficient kind of way, right? Of like what
Yes.
to do with those spaces. And do you think that's the right direction we should take the conversation, or do you have like a different piece, or you think that would be good to take the conversation?
You know, wherever you want to go. I mean, I'm flexible, so I just threw a few of those bullet points. You know, those are some of the things that I can be comfortable talking about just from my own personal experience. But
Okay.
so, tell me which one of those you want to zoom in on.
Yeah, so one of the things that I think is like really niche that a lot of people run into is around how do they set up blockers for whenever they have their active investing with their self-directed IRAs. But that's not a piece that a lot of people usually want to talk a lot about because it's like a really narrow topic into it. And I don't know if that's something you really specialize in.
Blockers? What do you mean by that?
Like a domestic blocker to like avoid. So you have like all of your active income, right, that you would generate through your self-directed IRA. So instead of using an LLC to do the checkbook control, you would tax it as a C Corp. So then you can make your investments that would be active investments, channel it through your C Corp, and your C Corp then pays a dividend to your self-directed IRA, and then you're able to avoid some of the UBIT tax with that because you're taxed.
I don't. That you probably need a tax guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, well, we actually have a tax guy on staff here at Royal Legal, so that's one of the things that we get asked a lot of the times about, like when it comes into stuff like this.
But that won't be my expertise.
Don't do that. Focus on what you're really good at. I want to make this like something where it really highlights the amazing work that you do and like what it is that you're really great about. That's what I'm doing. That's probably really different than other people in the industry is what I'm trying to do right now is actually create a space of Royal Legal where we have all of the smartest people talking, and even on stuff that we sell too. We want to get just everybody saying like, what's the one platform where all the smartest people are sharing information into it, and then everybody that comes can select whoever they feel most comfortable with and whatnot, right? So that's really the direction that I'm taking everything. So I'm really going to try really hard to make you look as good as possible into what you do to highlight what your absolute strengths are. So, okay, let's go ahead and kick it off, and we'll focus on that single-family, multifamily investor and syndication investor, and talk about the checkbook control pieces and why to do self-directed IRA. And I think you do solo 401k work as well too, right, Dmitry?
That's majority of what we do, yes.
Okay, cool. So maybe we'll start there. Is like who should be looking at self-directed IRAs? Who should be looking at solo 401ks? Who should be looking at both? And then we can kind of
and just a couple of things. So you aware again, if you wanted to direct it that way, I'll be happy to share my own investment experience. Again, just maybe briefly we can talk about being an active investor. That's what I've done in the past. Single family. I've done rehabs. That was kind of the beginning of my investment career, and then I'm a passive investor now. I do private lending and invested in a note fund and do syndications and invest in syndication. So I'm completely passive.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I can, basically from experience, I can compare the two. I can talk about that and explain why I'm doing what I'm doing. And then obviously utilizing the retirement accounts, that's something that I do daily. I talk with people daily. I can talk about that. And then I can talk briefly about being an investor versus speculating, because some people invest in, for example, cryptocurrency, right? I'm sure you're aware of this. I don't know if you have any involvement in that.
I don't invest in cryptocurrency because I think it's like going to Vegas.
Well, and that's my point.
Yeah.
This is a speculation. Right. It's not an investment. This is, and then maybe also I can talk about achieving financial independence and how you can do that with the investments. And
cool. Okay, yeah, let's start there.
Okay.
We can start there and go through everything like that. So we'll just take a brief pause, and then I'll give us a segue in. Hey guys, great to connect with you here today. Of course, I'm Scott Royal Smith. I am the owner of Royal Legal Solutions. I'm here with a friend of mine, Dmitriy Fomichenko. He is a real estate investor. Used to be really active in doing flips and those types of investments that you'd think are really putting your time and energy into maximizing your return there. Over time, he's actually transitioned into doing more passive investing, and he specializes in a type of investing where you're using your retirement funds to be able to maximize your returns. And if you guys aren't doing that, you need to start doing it. There's ways that you can shelter income into certain retirement accounts and thereby be able to increase your returns because you have more capital because you're using pre-tax dollars. So if that went totally over your head, don't worry about it. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that in today's segment. But in the grand scheme of things, though, I'd like to dive a little bit in with Dmitriy and what he's doing with his company with SenseFinancial.com, helping people use those retirement accounts as well as his investment experience. So, Dmitriy, thanks for joining me here today. And I was wondering if we could start maybe with, what are the types of investments and what your history is coming in to being an investor and then now helping investors recruit retirement dollars to be able to make better investments.
Sure. Thanks for having me on the show. It's great to be back. And I started being basically an active investor. My first investment was buying a fixer-upper. I did the complete rehab of that property myself. And I've done a few of those. I mainly have experience with single-family rentals. I've done a few multifamily 4-unit plexes, and And then when I started my business 10 years ago, I did not have any time to really focus on my rentals, and I slowly transitioned into passive investing. I think that's really a way to go. Or, maybe not for everybody to begin with, but ultimately you want to get there, because the reason that you want to you invest in all the effort and time and money into this so that you can achieve financial independence someday. And you can do that with investing in passive investments. Then you can have the time to enjoy the things that you want to do.
I think that's the ultimate goal that we're all trying to get to, right? Which is we really want the time and money freedom more than anything else, right? But there's definitely a right way to do this that people have, done it like time and time and time again with it. And so I know that before you were doing a lot with active investing, and now you switched to passive. What types of assets were you focused on when you were doing your active investing?
Like I said, it was mainly single-family rentals. Several of those were fixer-uppers. I purchased foreclosed to get them rehabbed and basically tuned them into long-term rentals. I've done new construction, again, single-family, and I've done a few fourplexes. Those were my intent with those plexes were actually hold them as a long term, but I end up flipping them because of the location. I discovered it. Again, that was my learning experience, and lesson for your listeners is that it's important to do your due diligence ahead of time, and that's I failed in that regard with those plexes, and the area was not that good, so I ended up flipping those properties, those fourplexes.
So what changed for you in your life that made you want to transition from doing active investing into passive investing?
Well, about 10 years ago, I started a business. I started Sense Financial, and again, what we do is we focus on helping our clients obtain checkbook control over their retirement accounts, utilizing vehicles such as checkbook IRA and truly self-directed solo 401k plans. And I running this full time, I'm busy, and so slowly I started transitioning my portfolio into passive investments. I sold most of my real estate holdings, and I started doing private lending, and it's been working great. I've been doing private lending both with my personal funds as well as inside of my retirement account. For both me and my wife. I was able to double my retirement account just doing private lending. And recently I also ventured into multifamily syndication. And the reason for that is because passive income from notes is great, and I will continue to do so in my retirement accounts. And I think it is the best investment strategy for your IRA and 401k dollars. But personally, for your personal savings, every year I will get a 1099 interest income, and that only increases my overall income and increases my taxes. So I started looking, because I liquidated most of my rental portfolio. I didn't have really that much of deductions. So I started looking into ways I can minimize my tax liability, and I came to realize that still real estate is the best thing to do it, but now instead of owning a single family property and being directly managing that and directly involved in that, I'm investing in a pool with other investors, with experts who are actually buying large complexes, and I'm just a passive investor, and I get to benefit from the depreciation and all their expertise. Those are the types of things that I'm doing right now.
Very cool. One of the things that I run into a lot of times talking with real estate investors, especially the single family home investors or people that have apartment complexes, is, should I get a self-directed IRA or solo 401k? Because how could it really help me, as a real estate investor with my income coming off of those properties? So what's your typical response to people who are in that kind of situation?
Well, sometimes people looking at this incorrectly, and they're trying to compare apples and oranges. So if you have money in a retirement account, if you have an IRA, or if you have 401k with the previous employer with a decent amount of money in there, you got to look at and see what is the money invested right now, and how are you doing on your investments. And again, most people are invested in the stock market, or maybe they own some mutual funds and so forth. And you got to look at your returns. Look back and see, are you pleased with the returns that you've been getting in your IRA and 401k? And if not, then maybe it's time for you to consider something else. And I'm sure you agree, and your listeners will agree with me, that when you invest in the stock market, you and I, we have zero control over the performance of the stock market going forward. Yes, we can look back and we can see historical return, and that will give us maybe some indication of the returns we can expect in the future, but ultimately we have zero control over the performance of the stock market. And that's not something that I enjoy. I'd like to have control. I'd like to have more predictability, and unfortunately cannot do that with the stock market. So if that is the case, then there is alternative investments. There is something that you can have more control. There is other investments that can provide you with better returns comparing to the stock market. And that's really the deciding factor for you. Should you move into a self-directed IRA? And again, I think for most people, if they're willing to learn a little bit more about alternative investments, then there is definitely a better alternatives to the stock market.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree with that. I mean, I think that you want to be able to control your downside risk. And so a lot of times what I'm seeing with people right now is that they're really lowering their LTVs inside of their investments. 70%, 75% LTVs are now becoming really, really common, sometimes even lower. With the idea being that, like, now your monthly payment is low enough that that even if we have a recession that pops up, that you're still going to be able to cover that note. And you don't end up having to give the asset back. And that becomes really easy to do if you're using retirement funds, because again, you have more capital to be able to push into those funds because you're using this pre-tax dollars. It's my understanding that with the self-directed IRAs, that they usually, the people that are going to be using that are saying, I had an IRA with a previous employer, I've since left that job, and now I can move it into a self-directed IRA custodian and set up an LLC to have checkbook control. Is that the typical scenario that you find people running into with their IRAs when they want to look at self-directed IRAs?
Well, again, when it comes to an IRA, there is basically two alternatives. You can go to the custodian and you can have a custodial IRA. But what most people, or some of the people at least, most people that I talk with, they find is that there is restrictions, there is a lot of red tape, there are limitations there, because when they want to make an investment, they bound by the custodian because they don't have direct access to their funds. So using that IRA LLC structure will give the client checkbook control over their IRA assets. They will be able to bypass the custodian, and they can make investment decisions, and they can act on those decisions immediately without custodian's consent or involvement. So it gives a lot of freedom, and also will put the investor into a winning position when there is an investment that you need to act quickly. You'll be the one to actually get that opportunity, rather if you had a custodial IRA and you have to go through the hoops, and that will take several days, you will lose on that investment. So a checkbook IRA has a lot of power.
Very cool. And so those would be, people that have IRA want to use a self-directed IRA. When do you see people wanting to take their IRA and roll it into a solo 401k?
Well, solo 401k is another a vehicle that will offer a client checkbook control. And it's actually pretty easy to determine if that's going to be a good fit for you. Because if you compare checkbook IRA and a solo 401k side by side, solo 401k is a more powerful vehicle, but it is not for everyone. So it is designed for those folks who are either self-employed or own a business without full-time employees. So you have to have legitimate self-employment activity in place to qualify. You don't have to have a company, you don't have to have an entity, you just have to have a presence of self-employment activity. You can do it as a sole proprietor. So if you are either running a business full-time, or perhaps you're doing it on the side, you may still have a full-time job, and maybe you're working your way out of that, but if you do something on the side, then solo 401k can be a great vehicle for you. It comes with some great benefits. Number one, again, if you are self-employed and you do generate some good self-employment income, it can be a great tax shelter because it allows you to contribute up to $56,000 per year. Now, if you're a husband and wife team working together and you have a good income producing business, that's over $100,000 in shelter that you can create for your family as a couple. So this is very, very powerful. So it's a great tax shelter. But also, with truly self-directed solo 401k, custodian is not needed, and LLC is not required to gain the checkbook control. So you minimize the fee, you actually simplify the structure, and you get a lot of control over your retirement assets. Also, another benefit of the solo 401k is that if you're using leverage to acquire investment properties inside of your retirement account, unlike an IRA, which is subject to unrelated debt, unrelated business income tax on leveraged real estate, solo 401k is exempt from that. So again, it's another reason to use this vehicle, which is solo 401k, to acquire investment properties using leverage and not be subject to any taxation. And another perk among a number of others is the ability to actually borrow from your 401k. It comes with the personal loan, so you can take up to $50,000 at any time should you ever need it. You know, it's not something to be taken lightly, but it is there available for you should you need it.
Yeah, it's really neat. I'm wondering about like a lot of the real estate investors that we have that also have a property management company. And they say, hey, you know, I'm managing properties. I'm also a W-2 employee. You know, am I self-employed and able to take advantage of a solo 401k because of that, because I have this property management company? Is that typically a fit, or is that too much on the line for the rules as you understand them?
Well, you know, it's a very interesting question, Scott. And the answer to that is, again, the qualification for the solo 401k is that you have to have legitimate self-employment activity. So what that is, it can be anything. It can be in any capacity. If you're managing your own properties, that might work for you. You got to get together with your CPA and you have to structure that properly. Again, you might be managing your properties, you might be doing all the work, but if you don't have that structured properly, then all the income, rental income, is reported on Schedule E, which is passive income. So you have to structure it properly that you actually generating a property management fee, and your CPA can help you do that. You don't need, again, an entity set up for that. It can be structured simply as a sole proprietorship. But if you do it this way, and if you manage several properties, then it certainly can be a viable option for you to qualify.
Very neat. Have you seen CPAs typically recommend an S corporation or C corporation for that purpose, so that way the income doesn't get passed as pass through income, that there's like a different tax treatment to it, and so because that's really the restriction we're talking about, right? Is that, you know, the IRS will say, hey, you know, if you have real estate and it's passive income and it's all passive income, that's not self-employment income. You need to show us something else to say that this is going to be self-employment income to qualify for the solo 401k. So if you say, well, I'm a property manager and here's my property management company, and listen, it's not even pass-through income, that this is, you know, corporate income. And so that's enough separation, even though the income dollars are the same, there's legal separations that occur in there to be able to qualify and potentially be in a safe harbor, even though the rules necessarily aren't very clear on that. Is Is that typically your understanding of the game that the CPAs and attorneys are playing in that space?
Well, that certainly will provide a concrete evidence to what you're trying to accomplish. Again, I don't personally think it's required to set up that legal entity such as a corporation, but you might want to go that. Again, it's something that you'd want to discuss with your CPA, because CPA will have better handle on things, because it's more of a tax question here. But I've seen it done both ways.
Very cool. Well, that's really neat, Dmitry. And and what have you seen in terms of people that are using these types of structures with the self-directed IRAs and solo 401ks? How have you seen this really improve people's portfolio performance and get them to financial freedom quicker? Do any stories come to mind of for yourself or maybe people you've worked with where that's been the case?
Yeah, I mean, I talk to people daily almost about these things, and you certainly can improve your performance of your retirement account by going a self-directed route, because with conventional IRA and 401k, you don't have access to those opportunities. I mean, again, talking about either being a private lender where you can expect double-digit returns, and you're investing in something that is protected. Your investment is protected, so it's you don't have as much risk. There is always risk in investing, but you don't have a risk of the stock market where the market can drop 50% and you can lose half of your portfolio. It's possible. It had happened in the past. I know people who lost half of their 401ks. So instead of being 401ks, they become 201ks. But
yeah.
So again, it is possible. You don't have that kind of risk with being a private lender, because you lend in your money and there is an asset that secures your loan, and you also get in guaranteed returns. Now, when I say guaranteed, meaning contractually guaranteed, you have an agreement, so you know exactly what you get in, the kind of return that you're expecting. And so the risk is much smaller. The return is much more stable and predictable and higher compared to the stock market. You can also look at multifamily syndication. Again, there is a collateral. There is a way to improve the value of that property. As you know, to those who don't know, the value of the property on multifamily is not determined by surrounding real estate, like with single family rentals and just single family real estate. Your neighbors determine the value of your house. But with multifamily real estate, the value is determined by the amount of income the property produces. So there is a way to acquire underperforming asset, make improvements to it, increase the value by increasing the income and reducing the expenses. Again, you don't have to do it yourself. I don't do it myself because I'm simply a passive investor. I let experts do that. I simply invest my money as a limited partner, and I get to enjoy the returns that I get every month or every quarter, depending on the setup. And they're somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 10%. I get to get the depreciation write-off if I'm using my personal savings to do that investment. And then down the road, when the property is sold, I get the benefit from that as well. So in some of the syndications, if they structured properly, if they acquired at the right price, you can expect 18% return, which is it's very hard to get that in other traditional investments.
Very, very cool, Dmitry. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show here today. For everybody that wants to reach out to you at Sense Financial, what is the best way for them to contact you?
Well, the best way is to go to our website, sensefinancial.com. Sense is like common sense, S-E-N-S-E. I'm sure you'll post a link there. But you can contact us through the website. You can Our phone number is listed there, which is 949-228-9394. And happy to chat to your listeners.
That's awesome, Dmitry. Well, thank you so much, guys. We're going to have the links posted here for you guys in there. Go to access it through the link here and get in touch with Dmitry if you need any advice on how to use self-directed IRAs, solo 401ks, and interested in what he's doing with that. He's a great resource for everybody. I know he's also very reachable. So you're not going to talk to 1,000 other different people and never get to talk to Dmitry when you reach out to Sense Financial. If you're serious about wanting to do business, I know Dmitry is happy to connect with you and be able to help you along your way. So Dmitry, thank you so much for coming on the show, guys. I look forward to connecting with y'all here soon. Royal Legal Solutions right now has actually just launched a tax division. So we're actually handling clients if you're just starting out or you have 20 million plus net worth. We now have tax solutions for you guys to be able to help you from everything from start to finish, including tax strategy sessions as well as tax preparation, cost segregation, the whole lot. So now you're one-stop shop with everything legal, as also includes the tax division as well too. So you only have one person that you have to talk to for that wing of it. Please reach out to Dmitry and see some of the great work that he's been doing there. He has a great website with tons of great resources, lenders for your self-directed IRA, all kinds of great stuff at sensefinancial.com. So I'll see you guys around here soon. Take care, Dmitry. Great having you on the show.
Thanks for having me.